Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DotPro show with BreakyCPK. Looking forward to another great show ahead of us here, and definitely plenty to talk about as we are starting really to get in full swing now of this new competitive season. That is right. Qualifiers have finally begun, and not only that, but kind of just on a personal note, I'm finally casting again, man. It feels good. In case you haven't heard, I've actually been doing the official casting this week for a couple of events, both the North American qualifiers for Starladder. Been doing that through the early part of this week, and I'm actually planning to continue all the way through this weekend until we find out the winner there. And then also even doing a little bit of PGL, both the European and even a bit of the NA region there. So doing some official casting again, working with BTS there. Always a lot of fun, and it's really, really great to be back in full swing here because, you know, I'm not going to lie, going into this last weekend even, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, there's all these events going on or starting to happen now, and I'm still yet to be contacted to do some casting, and part of me was a little bummed out, but as soon as I finally got that message, and all of a sudden it just started coming in, man. It was a massive wave that just hit me as far as just all this opportunity happening. So it's really cool though. It's really cool that things are finally getting going here, and definitely stay tuned to my social media, guys. If you are curious when I am casting, I do my best to let you guys know. Also, you know what? Just a slight plug right here. You can check out BreakyCPK.com even, and that's my blog site. I try to keep it somewhat active, but I did recently post my schedule for this week at least, and that's something I'll try to do now moving forward. For those again that are curious as far as my casting schedule. Anyways, enough about me. We got plenty to talk about, like I said, on this show, and including several events taking place from PGL qualifiers to the Starladder qualifiers to the King's Cup wrapping up even. So we got a winner there out of North America. Spoiler, it's the Dire. Big congratulations to them. And I know Zrock is happy, you know, with seeing that. Obviously, he's expecting a lot of big things out of that team. So, also, you know, we're also going to be getting to a couple other things. Let me pull up my outline here. That, as well as the ESL major qualifiers even, do start as we're recording the show. They started even here tonight. So that's going to be our first major event of the season coming up, and the qualifiers for that taking place. Again, going to be very interesting to see how this all now plays out, and in the shows to come, we'll start talking results and also previewing said LAN events coming up here. But first, I want to kick it off with the segment that we usually do. Now, I want to preface this with, I've been doing this segment here of the good, the bad, and the ugly. As these weeks have gone on, I've kind of realized, I don't know, it seems a little unnecessary, because having one good and then a bad, and then an ugly. It's essentially having one good and two bads. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why am I having multiple bads? Why am I advocating that? Why am I promoting that, right? So rather than having it the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's just call it the good and the bad, right? Like, let's just call it the good and the bad. And there are still some unfortunate things that happen I think is worth talking about, but it just seems unnecessary to have the multiple essentially bad things there. So I know it's maybe not as good of a ring. I'll think of something else perhaps to do here in the initial segment to make it a little more planned out. But for today, we'll do the good and the bad, all right? So with that in mind, we're going to start with the good here. The good, well, let's be honest. There's several great things, in fact, going on right now. We're in full swing here with the qualifiers. There are two big things that I want to go over there for our good. One being Valve finally getting us information on the pro circuit to come here for the upcoming season. You go to dota2.com/pro circuit, exactly that URL, and you'll see a full schedule essentially of the minor and major system. It's a nice clean website here. Not only do you see the full schedule, it tells you where the location is, the status, whether it's a minor or major, of course, the prize pool, the organizer of the event, and then this nifty thing here, the points for each of the events. Finally, we get to see how the points are breaking down and how that's looking. And then below, there's rules in terms of how it breaks down and everything. Now, again, I'm obviously going to be joined by Zrock later on. We're going to get way more in-depth into this, so I don't want to do that too much here. But the point is, see what I did there? No, but the point is that we have this information now, and it's giving teams an idea of what to expect moving forward. And the other crazy thing, too, off the bat, is that there's 16 minors. Initially, we saw that initial leak happen where it was 11 minors and 11 majors. Turns out that there's actually 16 minors now and 11 majors here. So there's even more of these sanctioned events taking place. And that doesn't even include all these third-party events that are going on the side that we've already even talked about a couple. There's one called the WCA that's even coming up. So there's even other ones on top of that outside of just simply these sanctioned events here. So again, really cool that that this site is out here. It also gave us more information, like I said, the point breakdown for where, depending on where you finish at the event, as well as even a great rule. Again, we'll talk about this later more, but coaches are now allowed in the booth with the players at the LAN events during the drafting phase, at least. After the draft is done, they do have to leave. But during the drafting phase, coaches are going to be allowed to join the players and actually talk about the draft. And some of you, including myself, I may not have even been aware of that wasn't allowed, right? Where maybe that might be surprising to hear, but that's been the case for a while now. But they're making the change, they're making the adjustments here. Coaches will now be allowed to sit in the booth with the players. So great stuff to hear there. Yeah, we'll break it down more in the show. We'll talk more about it. Another good, though, Na'Vi is back, baby. Na'Vi is back. A team that, of course, has amazing history within this game. Your initial TI winners, the history that Dendi especially brings to the table, has been with the organization since the beginning. A great person, let alone a great player. Even still, they've been going through some rough patches these last couple of years, especially this last year. They really could never find their footing. They went through a couple of different rosters. Didn't really qualify for much, and ultimately, just came up short in the long run there. So a lot of people were wondering, were they finally going to blow up the team? Was this going to be a year now without Dendi, where we're going to see what the new school Na'Vi would be? They kept Dendi. They made some changes, though. They got a couple different players. They have now qualified for both the initial first two minors of what is the PGL Open Bucharest, as well as a Starladder minor. Both happen to be taking place in the CIS region, the European region there even, for the finals main event. So I'm sure the organizers themselves definitely are very excited that a organization like Na'Vi is going to be going there now. But they earned it, man. They earned it. And I'll say, too, PGL, they had to defeat an Empire team that went the distance, and 95-minute game number 3, the LAN on the line. They went 95 minutes before eventually breaking through and taking the series there. So Na'Vi's back. That's great. And obviously that's something to really, really look forward to here with the new season. I know a lot of fans of that team. Now that leads us to the bad, and I'm just going to say, again, as I do a lot of these times with these bad situations, I don't want to spend forever on this. I want to just make you aware of it, and then you yourself can perhaps do more research if you care for it. I personally haven't done a crazy amount myself, so again, I want to stay away from talking too much about it. But there is a situation going on with former OG player Anna. Anna, who's been in the scene now for a couple of years. Of course, he made his big breakout this last year, being recruited by OG and joining the team and having the success with the two majors. There was some drama that came out within this last week or so that essentially he owes money to an agent, basically. At least that's the word that's coming out, where this agent by the name of Wobbly AU, that's his Reddit name. It's not actually his name. Well, Wobbly AU, I'll read what this says right here. Him and Anna basically signed a deal where Wobbly AU would be paid a percentage of winnings in exchange for getting Anna into esports. Wobbly AU claims in his blog that after a successful run in OG, Anna failed to deliver his end of the contract and essentially scammed him. Their history goes way back into Anna's days in IG. It's quite interesting because Wabi AU, once defended Anna's best interests, can now potentially become a claimant against Anna. This is actually just what I just quoted right there was a Reddit, whoever made this post on Reddit, basically, that's kind of brought the attention, basically, to the community. So, but it gives you a good kind of description of what's kind of going in here. There's definitely so many different ways to look at this. There's a side of it, I like to make the comparisons to traditional sports, especially where agents in traditional sports are a very, very popular thing. Having that person to help get you the right deals or take care of said business deals or take care of said deals so you could just focus on the playing aspect is there. And it's necessary in a lot of ways. So without really being able to see this contract that supposedly was signed and everything, it's something that's believable, right? It's definitely something that's believable. Now, it is funny to think that they signed this deal with the intention of getting Anna into esports. I mean, depending on the connections, it's definitely possible that could have and probably was the case, to be fair, but it's not a route that you necessarily need to take to get into esports. It's been proven time and time again, especially in these earlier years, that you don't need to sign an agent to get into esports, right? Like, you could just do it in a natural way of just playing more and more and constantly becoming recognized and then eventually getting said opportunity. This is a way to perhaps help that, though. So again, it is believable, kind of going back to that. But the other side of this that's also being brought up is the idea that when this supposed deal would have been signed, was Anna at the time would have been, I want to say 15 years old even. And we're talking about getting a minor to sign a contract. Most jurisdictions wouldn't even recognize that. Now, if the legal guardian or whatever was obviously involved, then perhaps there's a different side to it. So this is one of those kind of developing. It's not similar in content to the whole LGD LFY situation that we talked about before TI there, but it's one of those where we're gonna kind of have to wait and see develop now as things move along. It's unfortunate. It's, you kind of hope that this is one of those cases that it just kind of works out and there's no, bad blood, there's no massive harm, but Anna did have a very successful year, won a fair amount of money, and it's understandable that if somebody had this supposed contract signed with him, that suggests that him be getting a cut is going to be coming after him if he feels like he wasn't living up to his side of the contract. So, we'll see. Again, we're going to have to play the waiting game on this one. Maybe we'll have an update for you by next week on how this plays out. You also do kind of wonder if this had something to do with Anna's departure from competitive Dota, right? Where initially he made the point that he wants to go back to school. He wants to focus on that, which of course is great and obviously is understandable. But now that this information came out, it does make you curious as far as, well, maybe was this part of it too? And there was things going on behind the scenes, basically, that no one really knew about outside of him and this wobbly AU guy, maybe a select few others. And it was just too much drama to handle, especially for somebody that's so young of an age and getting, that had, again, a very successful year last year. So that's the bad/ugly as far as what's going on right now. But again, there's just so much good to talk about, so we got to do that. Now, as you may have noticed, unfortunately, we do not have a guest today on the show. It's just such a busy week. I did try. I reached out to a couple. I wasn't able to get anyone on here. It's such a busy week, though, for just talent in general, to the players, of course. Hell, even myself, part of me was kind of wondering. I mean, I knew I would get around to doing the show, of course, but when I was going to be able to make the time to do it with just all this casting happening and everything. So, obviously, I've made the time, though. Zrock has also made the time, and he will be joining me How about that? Zrock will be our special guest today. Now, even more special than when he's usually on every show anyways. No, but we're going to have some fun talking about all this stuff going on throughout this week here. And what to look forward to into the next week. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back with Zrock. All right, guys. So, welcome back again. We got plenty to talk about this week. We're in full swing, to say the least, when it comes to these events happening now. And so, of course, joined by Zrock here again. And Zrock, we got a lot to do. We're finally back in casting. First off, that's exciting. We finally get to back cast again.
Oh yeah, we got a rude awakening back into that one. That was great.
Yeah. It
was a good time.
It's been a while here since we've casted, and all of a sudden, I found out this weekend, literally Saturday night, I get contacted about, hey, so can you cast this whole week for Starladder North American Qualifiers? I'm like, okay, let's do it. I was wondering when this was going to happen, and been in full grind so far this week.
And then you get the second option. Hey, you also want to do EU? Get up at 8.
Yeah. Oh boy,
sure.
Yeah, it's been fun times. No, but it's been good. It's obviously been very good. There's just been so much Dota happening, and lots been coming out too. So let's get into it. Let's start from the top here. The first thing we wanted to bring up outside of these individual events is the overseeing of the events, and it was later on last week, because I believe it was the Friday even, so shortly after our show came out last week, that Valve officially announced the Dota Pro circuit and not only the full schedule, essentially, between all the minors and the majors, which it turns out I believe there's 16 minors, as well as 11 majors now. But on top of that, it broke down the months of it, where they're going to be, and then, of course, the point breakdown to top it all off. That was really the big thing that a lot of people were wondering about, what the difference in points were going to be from minors to majors, how it was going to break down. We finally got that information, Zrock.
That we did. And it's a little surprising. I don't think it's quite what people were expecting. So just to break it down for people, the way this is going to work, pretty much every minor is going to be worth right around 300 points. There's some minor exceptions. ESL putting a little extra money in the prize pool. Their minor might be worth 400 points. But other than that, minor is going to be worth 300. Major's worth 1,500, other than the last major prior to TI.
Yeah. So the first biggest thing is minors between majors. The 300 compared to the 1,500. So it's a fair amount more. We're talking about 5 times the amount as far as more points. Does that seem off to you? I mean, to me, when I did first see this, it seemed like that was a pretty dramatic difference, because even though it's a minor, I mean, as far as the prize pool split goes, in a lot of cases it's just only a third of the prize pool, where the points are a fifth of the points.
Which is what they said going into it. And honestly, I love this point spread, because what it means is a team that does okay at a couple majors maybe just needs a few more points and goes and plays one more minor and gets there. But it's not enough incentive for the EGs, the secrets, the VGs, like the powerhouses, to actually go play these tournaments. So it's going to do a great job in filtering out the tier 2 and tier 1 scene a little bit. And honestly, I'm very happy with the point spread. I know on Twitter, a lot of people were posting about how they maybe wish the majors were 1,200 instead of 1,500. But I really like what this is trying to do. I think this is the best way to do it. It's enough that minors can give you that extra little edge, but they're not going to be your deciding factor in whether or not you go.
Yeah. No, I definitely see what you're saying, and there's a lot of me that does agree with that as well. And it is kind of interesting how as we've started the season now, again, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later on, in fact, but we've already started to see teams, again, react to, we can't play in this qualifier for this event because we're playing in this one. Like, what's the deal? Well, again, you're going to have to choose. We've been suggesting that the whole time. That seems like Valve is definitely what part of the system is all about, and that goes back to the point spread, where the incentive is there for the majors, ideally for those top tier teams, where instead the minors will be left for those tier 2. Let me ask you this though: when it comes to a spread like this, and I know you've kind of brought this up, is there a part of you that maybe is almost not scared, but wondering if teams may find themselves playing in a lot of just minors, not worrying about going to compete for all these majors instead. Like there'll only be a select teams that try to compete for majors. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, I think we're going to see the people that win or get top 4 in minors maybe make a shot for the majors. Other than that, it's going to be a lot of the premium teams playing in them. And we're also seeing a lot of these majors are starting to reveal their formats. And even for majors, they're only bringing 8 teams. So if they invite 2, that only means 1 team from each other region, and they have to run qualifiers. Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be a lot of room for up-and-coming teams to make it to the majors, but I'm actually okay with this for the most part.
Yeah,
I really do think that's the best way the system can work. If you are a team that's good enough, you'll win the qualifier slot. My one fear is with only 8 teams in the majors, the weaker regions, I won't even speculate on what those may be as we filter out, but the weaker regions may get overrepresented in the majors. They get more guaranteed prize money. They get a lot of perks, basically, because the region's weaker. But now that we have a full circuit system, we might see more teams relocate than we have in the past. I mean, we've got Immortals now basing themselves out of North America. We've got Eternal Envy went over to Southeast Asia. I have to imagine some major team is going to go take residence up in South America. I can't see it not happening.
It seems like that's coming, right? I mean, just how dysfunctional that scene seems to be from year to year, and now with how much they have going for them as far as this format is concerned, it feels like that has to happen sooner than later. But I don't know.
The best chance for it's Weeha's stack, honestly. They've played in different parts of the world. They are a very international team. Tomato's from Peru anyway. I feel like it'd be a very good opportunity for them to just relocate, even for a month for qualifiers.
Yeah.
You go find a time where there's 3 qualifiers in a given month. You go just rent a house in Peru and jam out all of those qualifiers in that month, see what happens.
Is there something wrong about that, though? I don't know. It's like, I understand like why teams are allowed to do it, and I'm not necessarily against it, but just even hearing that just sounds wrong. The fact that a team could just move to a location, compete for a month for a set event, and represent that region. I don't think that's what Valve has in mind when it comes to these regional competitions, right?
It definitely isn't, but there has to be some sort of play in the system when they're allowing an 8-team major, but still mandating that there's going to be a slot from every region. That's just, it is what it's going to be at that case. If it's a 16-team major and you could do 2 slots from EU, 2 from NA, 2 or 3 from China, then totally different story. Then each region gets more competitive towards their skill level. But right now, if you're going to guarantee a slot to every major to South America, there's no way some bigger team's not going to go down there.
What about if a team does that for like whatever reason for just like a month or so and then moves back to Europe to compete in the Europe qualifiers later on in another event? Is that where it maybe gets shady? Is that the line, or is that a potential? Do you think teams could possibly do that too for whatever reason?
I think that's okay as long as they're independent tournaments, as long as they're separate tournaments. The one fear I have is there was that one event that ran their China qualifiers very early on, and then their other regions came much later. So in theory, if you had the money, you could double dip. You could go play the Chinese qualifier, fly back to Europe, sign up for the Europe qualifier. That's where I would say it's really shady. If something like that arises where, even if it's only a week apart, right? We book a week in Peru, we go play this qualifier. Oh, we didn't make it. Let's go back to Europe and play our other one. But as long as they're separate tournaments, I really don't have an issue with it personally. I think the regions need to be competitive. If you're talking a major, this is an international event. If you can't beat a team flying in to try to ring in your region, how are you expected to compete against the best of the best?
Yeah, it does go back to that for sure. So,
and there's been some bad precedent that's already been allowed from Valve in this. They've given no quarrel with like the old DC roster playing in NA. They haven't seemed to care yet about Immortals, which is 5 South Koreans playing in North America. So it is a little bit hard. I think I'll snowball this into a bigger point here real quick. I think the best way Valve could fix it is a twofold approach, where when you sign up for your team, roster locks are coming, I believe, October 3rd is when roster locks are finalized. So if when you locked your roster in, you had to pick your region, I think that would help. So you locked in and you said, okay, we're South America.
That's what
so
I'm
whether
thinking,
whether you're in South America or not, you're playing the South American qualifier on the South American servers. And if you're not there, that's a you problem. I think that would help. The other thing I really think needs to get done is that the same portal they're using for roster locks needs to be used for invites to tournaments, both in the actual tournament itself and qualifiers, where if you commit to something, you are not allowed to play anything else in that time frame. Because we'll talk about this later in specific instances where it happened, but as you said, we've had teams already qualified in a closed qualifier, played part of the tournament, and then said, oh yeah, we want to go play something else instead, and just drop out. That is not okay. And that's something that needs to get fixed. And I think the easiest way to do it is for Valve just to make it official that, okay, we signed up for this tournament, these are the dates it's on, we're committed to this. And then if you ditch that, if you just don't play it, you can't go play anything else in that time frame.
I go back to this is a trial year. That's ultimately what this is going to be. As great as it is to see this new system in play, it is a trial year. It's going to be a learning process yet again. It's going to be a case of trial by error, and it's situations like this, as you already bring it up. There's definitely still more that needs to be implemented as we move on here.
And it's up to Valve, but they do have a way they can do this where they break it down into quarters, because roster locks have normally been after each major. So if they do this quarterly, say the roster lock from October 3rd goes through December 31st, new roster locks by January 3rd or 5th or whatever, then they go reevaluate, figure out what went wrong, and tweak it. They should, in theory, have 3 more tweaks before TI. Mm-hmm. And I'm really hoping they do step in and refine the system throughout the year rather than saying, we're just going to let this happen and see what comes of it.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing that we have talked about is, again, the difference of points between majors and minors. We haven't mentioned the breakdown, though, when it comes to getting those points. How much do you earn? Now, again, this is another thing. It wasn't going to be for all 8 teams that are going. Was it just going to be for top 4? Well, it turns out it is just going to be for the top 4 teams, and it's broken down where first place actually gets 50% of the points. So for a major, in most cases, 750 points, a minor 150. And then it goes down there. Second's 30%, and then third/fourth is 10% each. If it happens to be a tournament where there's a third place game to determine the third and the difference of fourth place, and it's 15% for third, and then 5% for fourth place. But ultimately, the top 4, so the top half in most cases, will be getting points. And again, all the players get those points. So like first place, each player then gets 150 points on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's important for when players move around.
It didn't matter, though. If they divide it by 5, you're just dividing it by 5. It really had no bearing in it, but the fact of the matter is every individual keeps their points earned. And so as they move around teams, that's fine. It's just going to be the top 3 players that their point matters. So you can still essentially stream 2 players where, we don't like this 2, we're going to cycle them. Hey, Complexity, don't listen to this. But yeah, you could do that. You can make some more fluid roster moves there, but roster locks are still in place. The one thing I'm a little curious about, though, is before it was very defined that roster locks were used for the Valve majors. That was it. The 3 majors we had. I don't know what that's going to mean going forward here. Okay, you do a roster lock. Does that apply to the majors, to the minors, both? Closed qualifiers, direct invites? We need a little bit more substance on that.
As far as the points in for invites?
As far as in the past, if you had a roster locked and you changed players until the next roster lock, then you had to play qualifiers. We saw EG have to go play an open qualifier at one point.
Yeah.
So what does the roster lock even mean at this point? Does that only apply to majors? Does that only apply to closed qualifiers at the majors? Mm-hmm. It really doesn't have a lot there. They explicitly mention how subs work in the point system, but it really doesn't apply what the roster lock means. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll have to see what that is going forward. One other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, it shouldn't take long. They announced that the closer to TI, majors and minors would have more points when this was first talked about. That proximity to TI would matter more because obviously a team's doing better closer to TI. It's probably a different patch, maybe just a different shift in the meta, whatever it is. There's only one major with more points than any other. Yep. And it's only because it has more prize money. It's not because of the time to TI. So they scrapped that idea entirely. There is no point weighting system towards TI.
I wonder if there is pushback there from the third-party organizations, honestly. And because
there might have been.
And I wouldn't be surprised, right? Because the earlier ones, such as the Dota Pit, PGL, whatever, they're like, well, why is ours worth less just because it happens to be earlier? I mean, they needed to spread them out throughout the year. I would not be surprised if that's what ultimately it came to, because you're right. We talked about that even. It sounded like that's the direction they were going to be going in, but personally, I don't think that's a massive issue just simply with how it's set up. And yes, roster shuffles are going to happen. That's naturally going to take place. But I think a win earlier in the season means just as much as later in the season. I really do, because you still had to win. You still had to beat other teams, even if the patch was different than what it's going to be for the eventual TI event.
Overall, I agree with you. Yeah, I don't mind it. It is what it is. It's defined. I'd rather have information and have it be defined and not necessarily think it's the best for the competitive structure than be in the dark about this the whole time. So yeah. I do think it's a little bit unfortunate because, I mean, we've seen some teams fall from grace that did exceptionally well and then tanked out the next year. But overall, it's fine. I mean, I think this is going to give a little bit more weight to teams that can weather the storm through a patch, that keep their same, at the very least, 3 of the same players throughout the whole year and kind of grind.
Well, we've talked about the points and everything, the schedule, how it's looking. Again, there's this, it's, what is it, Dota2.com/pro circuit. That's the link for you guys if you are curious what we're looking at here. One other really big thing that did come from this that it almost kind of caught people off guard a little bit, maybe not expecting such a rule to be implemented, but coaches are now. We league boys. We're real sport now. Coaches are now allowed in the booth at said LAN event for a minor or major during the drafting phase, at least. So where before they were never allowed in the booth during any point of the game, they could help you prepare, obviously, but then they had to leave as soon as the drafting was about to start. Now they're going to be able to stay through the draft. They leave after the draft is finished, but they can help teams now figure out, the better draft. This was a big deal, and we saw a lot of reaction from it. Mainly positive. I don't really think I saw any negative. I mean, I don't know about you, but it seems like this is overall a positive change from what I gather.
Overall, I think it's great. I think this is a huge step in the right direction. I think bringing coaches into the scene and making them more of an integral part of the team is a very, very good step. It allows for the more thoughtful players that maybe weren't quite as good mechanically to have even more impact in the team. And I think in the long term, this is going to set it up so that we get a better infrastructure overall. Coaches get paid a little more. They actually get more involvement in the team, and teams feel like they're earning their weight a little more than they have in the past. So overall, I'm very happy with this change. I think it's going to be a huge step forward, and it should make games a little more competitive.
Yeah, I definitely have no problem with it, and I'm with you. Again, being somebody that has a background of traditional sports and being a fan of them, something you're always used to seeing is the coaches on the sidelines, those ones that help prepare the team or even kind of manage the game in a sense during the games. When it comes to esports, yes, it's a different breed to an extent, but we've seen over time that coaches are very, very relevant, especially in a very mentally thought out game that is Dota 2. And the idea to get them involved as much as possible, I think is nothing but good. I really do. And the value for coaches, I saw a tweet about that. It just went way up, obviously, when it comes to this. And it's going to be interesting to see how many of these teams take advantage of this, really, if they haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean, the one devil's advocate point I've heard about this is some people feel like it's a huge detriment to either new and up-and-coming teams or teams on a little lower budget who maybe don't have a sponsor, who maybe can't afford a good coach or can't draw in that, that Zhao 8, that fear to come coach for them. Saying that, okay, well, these lesser teams that are up and coming are at a huge disadvantage. But all in all, I think that's a whole different issue. Like, I know a few players that are in the 4 to 5K range that would make excellent coaches. They just can't press a button on time. So it's a whole different skill set. And I think people are going to have to take some time to get used to what makes a good coach. And I'm hoping with this change, we see more people dive into that.
I think that's the great point you brought up at the end there, that because of we haven't necessarily had a place for them outside of just the initial prep. And again, it's become more and more of a thing, especially with the success this last year of not only OG, but of course Liquid, and them winning TI. We saw there with the coach. The idea that there's plenty of people out there that you just haven't heard about that are going to start, hopefully becoming more recognized by said teams and these lesser teams that maybe don't have the budget. I'm sure they could still look to get one of these, players that maybe don't have the high MMR, but are still very, very knowledgeable when it comes to the game and could help them out there. So, again, I see it as really nothing but positive here, and that was a fun addition to see from Valve on this. So, all right, think that covers, though, for the minors and major point spread, though. Everything that's
that it
got
does.
announced there.
Let's get into some actual tournaments here, huh?
Let's do that. Let's get into some actual events that are going on. Well, kinda. The first one we're going to kick it off with is the ESL Major Qualifiers, our first major of the season, coming up in October here of ESL. What is it, October 26th to the 29th? The qualifiers have actually now officially begun. And in fact, as we're recording this, it started earlier today here on the 21st. It's continuing on tonight. It's going to be continuing on for, throughout this weekend here. And by next show, I'm sure we'll know some results. But ESL taking place. This is our first major. It's a big deal, right? So, here we are. It's going to be interesting to see how things get kicked off now and what teams we ultimately have going to the major. Of course, the invited teams are Team Liquid and Team Newbie. As we've talked about before, no surprise there, but now we need a qualifier from each region. We do already have one team qualify, with that said, and they happen to be from China, as they ran their qualifiers a little bit earlier on. Keen Gaming ended up defeating, hear me out here, Keen Gaming defeated Invictus Gaming Vitality, and LGD Gaming back-to-back-to-back in the playoffs, ultimately to get their spot to the first major representing China. Who's Keen Gaming? Couldn't really tell you. That's my insight.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little more backstory than that, but for anything more, we'd have to go to Jack. Basically, eHome started two feeder rosters, farm teams, secondary teams, whatever you want to call them. One of those was eHome Keen. And eHome Keen decided they didn't really want to be a part of the eHome name anymore and broke off and started their own name. None of these players have really made a huge breakout before. I know Wrong has been on a couple other teams. He stood in for IG, Newbie Young, teams like that. But what a monster run for them. I mean, they got seeded as a tier 2 invite, so they had to play all the way through the bracket. Mm-hmm. They ended up beating For the Dream, which is aggressive SNU team. And as you said, just smashing known teams that made good runs at TI one after the other. And battling their way out through an intense 5-game series against LGD. The first 3 games were a combined 3 hours. They all went an hour long.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and managing to squeak it out is a full best of 5. So Keen Gaming will be the Chinese representation at ESL 1 Hamburg.
That's something, because especially going back to the point spread real quickly, how we mentioned it's even throughout the year. There is no advantage for later on, as we see. The fact that a team, Keen Gaming, is going to be representing China for the first one, I mean, I know it's only the top 4 that ultimately get points, but hell, they had a run like this. I'm sure they could possibly have a run at the event if they keep things up. Talk about making a breakout to start the year, and talk about having all the momentum in the world. So, now it is China, so I think that's where we necessarily shouldn't be the most shocked. If this was like any other region where a team came out of nowhere, maybe more, but still. Very curious to see how they maybe match up. Now, it sounds like you didn't get the chance to watch any of the games either. So, unfortunately, I can't really speak for the eye test. But as you're pointing out, I mean, you just list off the names again of the teams: IG Vitality, and LGD. The fact that they had to it's not like this was a rollover an event by any means. This is our first major of the year. They're going. So we're going to start learning these player names, perhaps, and we'll see what they can do. Now, part of me does want to say, though, is this for the better? The fact that a team that we really don't know anything about is going to the first major of the new season from China. Like, is that healthy, ultimately?
That's the question. I mean, it's going to be a great litmus test for what an 8-team major could look like. We're going to have this, as I said, I won't say unknown, but a relatively unknown team coming out as the Chinese qualifier. And yes, you've got Newbie there, given their deep run at TI, but this is your Chinese qualifier. If you only have one slot, this is the stuff that is going to happen. This qualifier was single elim, so there wasn't any sort of recovery when a team did lose a series. And we're going to see this kind of stuff out of a number of regions for multiple tournaments this year if we keep seeing 8-team tournaments announced.
Mm-hmm. You got the other regions. Every other region still has to play. Again, I believe they all are pretty much starting today. I mean, they're just getting started. We can go through maybe our favorites of each of the regions, I guess, but not much else to say there.
Honestly, there's so much other stuff to go through. Yeah. All in all, the only one I'm saying about is look for the Dire to win North America. Just saying.
You love that. Look for Mind's Eye to win North America. A shout out to my boys there.
Yo, I know Brink.
they're probably not going to win. But yeah, we're looking at Brink, Fuzzy Sloth, Baba Ganoush, aka Regroste, and I actually don't know these other guys, although I thought it was players that I was supposed to know. Maybe not. Anyways, these are they're the later part of what was Complexity Han, actually. They're some of the more recent people. Fuzzy Sloth is one of these. He's like 17 years old now. He's one of these young kids in North America that actually is very good. Is a very good player, and I look forward to seeing how he does.
I will give a real quick shout out. Blue Pikachu making another run into a tournament. Like we saw them try against EG a couple days ago, and they put up an okay fight in one of the games, but they did qualify for 3 of these tournaments. So they will be in multiple major and minor qualifiers here coming up. What that means going forward, who knows? But as far as open qualifier teams, they've made a couple runs now, and they're starting to show that they may be here regularly. Maybe a team that we're going to start seeing more of.
You got the European region. I will say something to look out for as well is OG, and will they be able to advance on? Because they've already came up short for their first qualifier.
And they're playing SFT again. That was real close the first time.
Yeah, that was the opening match that we got a caster on the Tuesday here of this week. So they know them now. So you hope that they a little more prepared even. But it starts pretty difficult, and it's. As these all are, it's only going to continue to be difficult. And again, you ask some OGs in these qualifiers, then we're going to be seeing a lot of this. Because again, there's only 2 invited teams. Everyone else has to go through the qualifiers here of these events. So,
indeed.
That's the ESL.
There was one more thing I saw on this. Was it in North America? Yeah. Looking at the bracket for North America. It doesn't really matter much because it's not double elim and there's only one team qualifying. But if you look at the top half of this bracket compared to the bottom, you have Immortals, Iceberg, EG, Dire, and Complexity. All teams that, are being heard of. Probably Iceberg's on the lower end of that, but at the very least, Dire, Complexity, and EG are probably 3 of the top 4. And they are all on the top half of this bracket. The bottom half consists of, for notable teams, DC, VGJ, Storm. That's it, who I think are both lately have kind of looked to step down from Dire and EG out of the openings that we've seen. The round 1 of the bottom half of the bracket, just looks... there's not really anyone notable, and it's just a weird seeding. The most competitive final we can get out of this is probably going to be what? EG or Dire versus DC?
Which is fine. On paper, that's fine, but...
Yeah, that's all right.
I see what you're saying, though. Like, in a perfect world, EG and Dire should be on opposite sides, because right now, those look like the 1 and 2 teams.
Yeah.
That should be the potential for a grand final. So I do agree with you there, but it goes back to the point that you made at the very beginning. One team qualifies, you're going to need to beat everyone. It's single elimination. If you truly deserve your spot, you have to get to that team eventually. It's maybe not as great for the spectators, but... that's what makes these qualifiers so great at the same time. So it does put emphasis, though, on the initial seeding for these organizations that they probably, hopefully they are aware of it. And in this case, I do agree again, maybe they could have made some adjustments here to make it a little smoother, but...
I think the best thing they could do is after the round of 12, like if you lose in the round of 12, you're out. But in the quarterfinals, once you're down to 8 teams, they turn it into double elim. It adds 1 day to the bracket, but it gives a bit of a fallback for teams that get through the first round. If they didn't get the tier 1 invite, they can still at least make a run. I think that would shore up a lot of the weaknesses of this kind of format.
Yeah.
But ESL definitely making a very aggressive move in their structure here. As you said, first major, only 8 teams, so the 2 invites from TI and 1 qualifier slot, and then single elim qualifiers. It's definitely bold, to say the least.
We're seeing these organizations, try different things when it comes to the formats. I think so far the one I do like the most is the PGL, actually, after they made the adjustments. We had that drama with the Southeast Asia region where it was just best of 1 initially, and then, the tiebreaker kind of screwed Fnatic over in that case. They then adjusted it to be best of 3 GSL format, where then, then it goes into a single elimination tournament. So far that feels like to me like that's a good way to really determine the better team, and then also get the most excitement factor, you could argue, for a quick qualifier. that you're trying to run here. But
if you have to run the qualifier quickly, I think this is probably the best format. It still sucks the playoff ends up being single elim, but is what it is. We're gonna have to see a lot of things going forward. I mean, my personal favorite would be doing like 2-game Swiss through it, or 3-game Swiss, and you basically filter it out till there's a winning team, but that lends itself really poorly to spectating. You get a lot of anti-hype basically getting up to the finals. It ends up being a little weird, but either way, gonna see a lot going forward, and yeah, that's going to be our first major.
When are we going to have Swiss back, man? I felt like it had a pretty good reception at the Kiev major and everything, and then it just like didn't happen again. And we haven't seen anything about it yet this year.
Yeah,
I do hope it comes back, but so far nothing. Nothing there.
Well, let's move on to our 30-second event coverage of a new up-and-coming event without a lot of information. We've got WCA, a third-party organization running a tournament that is not a major or a minor. And that is going to be taking place in Europe this year as opposed to China. So that's a little bit of a transition. But already have gotten some of the format set up. They ran individual qualifiers into group qualifiers per region. Basically just giving you guys a heads up. There's some notable teams in this. Vega, Empire, Na'Vi, Hellraisers. On the North American side, you've got like Wheel Rack and a couple other teams going to be coming in there as soon as this qualifier finishes. That is going to be taking place starting, I believe the first qualifier starts this week. Yes, the European qualifiers will start a week from today. So something to keep an eye out for.
Is this, you mentioned it's in the, well, from what I'm looking at, the main event's actually in China for the LAN itself.
Okay, it is going to be in Yanchang again.
Yeah.
I was on the qualifier pages and it switches regions for every qualifier.
Yeah. You sound disappointed by that, yeah.
Yeah, well, this tournament's just been odd. If you really want to look at some past drama in Dota 2, just Google WCA. I'm not going to go into it any more than that, but there's definitely some interesting stories out of it.
I'm looking forward to casting events this year, getting ready for the grind, but there are some out there where I'm like, I might pass, but we'll see if that ever comes up. But yeah, no,
this tournament's just
have heard
odd
about that.
They ran their APAC qualifiers, their Asian Pacific, before TI. They're done. It's Mineski and Execration. Mm-hmm. And so those are already done. European ones start next week. North America don't start for like 3 weeks. It's just super spread out. But they don't even have a date, I don't think, for the LAN itself. But we'll see going forward. We'll keep you up to date on that. But just wanted to touch on it in case you wanted to watch the Euro calls.
They got a sponsor, and it's Skincoin. That's what matters.
Skincoin.
I
feel like you're digging deep for that one.
I do not want to search that one. All right, so that's the WCA there. Now, another relevant event, of course, a minor on the line. We got the Starladder, the qualifiers. And again, this is kind of close to us because just so happens, myself and you, we've been casting the North American region, actually, for this event from the beginning here. And it's, it's been fun so far. As far as Starladder goes as a whole, we have several qualifiers already finished. Again, the direct invite teams were Liquid and Newbie for this one. The CIS qualifier, which, by the way, it ended up being pretty awesome in itself as expected. Na'Vi, though, making their first splash of the new season to a lot of fans, excitement, of course, as they made through. So they did not have to... Virtus Pro was not part of this event, though. So there is that asterisk right there. But you know what, Na'Vi? They don't care. They qualify. That's what matters. You got SG Esports from South America and then Mineski from Southeast Asia. So we got Europe, China, and North America to get through. So like I said, though, we've been covering North America. So far, the Dire, once again, does look good. But in another case, we also got to see the debut of what was the new Evil Geniuses and their roster against Blue Pikachu, as you mentioned. Some good buddies of yours made it to the open qualifiers.
Yeah, and EG, it kind of looked like somebody waking up in the morning, right? Like they were groggy-eyed, just not really sure what was going on for the first 20 minutes of their first game, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we remember how to do this, and then the game was just over. And game 2 was just a manhandling. So EG potentially looking like they're still in very good form. And we'll have to watch them going forward as they are going to have a much tougher match here. They're going to be playing Complexity in about a half hour, so this game will be over by the time you hear this. But that's shaping up to be a hell of a series.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. I actually have a prior obligation myself, and I know you're going to be going somewhere. You're traveling or something. I don't know. But
No, I'm bowling.
You're bowling. That's right.
Priorities.
You got the bowling league. There you go. All right, so yeah, again, EG versus Complexity tonight. Of course, a big matchup here for this for these qualifiers. The winner will move on to play Dire. It is double elimination, so who knows what happens from there. But again, the NA qualifier is definitely shaping up to be pretty exciting stuff. However, there is one result that is a little bit interesting. How DC, this new Digital Chaos squad, they are actually already knocked out, the first team to be knocked out. Not only losing to VGJ Storm in the first round 2-1, but then losing 2-0 to Immortals to be knocked out there. I mean, obviously those are two very good teams, but there's a lot of high expectations as always for DC, and this is to, be an unfortunate loss for them, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, DC has just kind of been a wild card. I feel like that's a lot of the NA teams right now. They can all beat each other. Dire can beat EG, VGJ can beat DC, Immortals beat DC, but then Immortals loses to people. It's just been crazy. I have zero idea what the NA scene is going to look like going forward. Thankfully, we're going to get a lot of games to keep it up and get a little more info. But right now, yeah, the NA meta is crazy.
Mm-hmm. So that's the NA region right there. Obviously, you got Europe going on as well. And something very interesting to talk about from the European region is... Well, the fact, first off, that we have Team Secret, they're actually matched up against OG in the winter finals currently of the event, so they both made it through. OG got a default win initially against 4P5, which ended up disbanding, and then they went on to defeat Team Kingwin, the new squad there, former alternate attacks team. So their road, has been pretty easy to say the least. And then you have Team Secret having to get through SFT Esports and then defeating Mouse Sports actually earlier today even, which was a really good series, by the way, where they won it 2-1 there. But they have been doing all of this without Fata for the most. I don't know if he's actually played. I don't think he played the first series either, if I'm not mistaken. So they've had a couple of ringers. Sparta is the one most recently that's been playing for them. A dude named Sparta. But Fata's been actually, due to an emergency, that's all we know. He has been out of action for Team Secret.
And it's nothing to do with his health, to the best of what I know. They said a family emergency pulled him away for the week. So he's looking to be out during... I mean, it couldn't really come at a worse time, right? They're in 3-4 qualifiers this week alone, but still performing. They're still in every one of them, I believe. I don't think they've been knocked out of anything yet. So pretty good run so far, nonetheless. And gonna have to see how it looks once they get him back.
Yeah, Europe is shaping up probably as you would expect so far as well. Again, OG Secret in the winter finals. That could very likely even end up being the grand finals. Mouse Sports, though, they looked solid against Secret. They took it to a third game. And even in game 3, it was a fairly close one from what I saw there. But
you know what? That's a real clean transition to the next tournament, Breaky. Mouse Sports. Okay. PGL. Mouse Sports. Yeah. Mouse Sports 2-1 OG.
That happened too. So very good against Secret, and then 2-1 over OG, as you mentioned, to move on. It was a
struggle of a 2-1. If you look at that match history, you had Mouse Sports winning game 1 in 65 minutes and winning game 3 in 63 minutes. Their loss was a 30-minute smashing from OG. So definitely interesting. I kind of talked down on Mouse Sports last week, saying they're going to struggle to make a major this year, but a little bit of life left in this team. It was a very tenacious series from them that managed to put them in the grand finals against Secret to qualify for PGL Bucharest. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely going to be an interesting series. It's good to see them get a little bit of momentum. We know this team is very momentum-based, so to win a big series like that has to be making them very happy right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll reiterate that I believe I put them in that 5 spot there for the rankings that we did. I have high hopes for my Greek pride here for this Mouse Sports team, and I feel like this new system is actually going to be pretty nice for them. And we are seeing a fairly stronger start for them here in the qualifiers so far. So, yeah, a big victory over OG, who, as we mentioned, they've been looking good, but at the same time, maybe not that dominant OG, especially now with Resolution, that we perhaps expected. But it's going to be Mouse Sports versus Secret in the finals of that. Of course, that being a different event now, so we'll see how this one turns out. But the winner of that going to the PGL Open Bucharest main event LAN, one of the first minors of the season, of course, to open it up. So,
yeah, and there was a little bit of controversy here in that tournament. Team Tuho not actually making it in, but Weeha Stack was committed to playing this and actually took a step out and backed out of this tournament to, I believe, was it ESL they went to go play?
No, Dream League.
Open Dream League. Yep. So they basically were committed to this tournament. They had gotten a direct invite. They said, yep, we'll play it, and then did back out at the very last second. Tuho, thankfully available within, 30 minutes of the match time. Basically just jumped in their slot and gave it a run, but did not manage to make it out of groups, so that will be the end of their run for the PGL Open tournament. But yeah, I mean, again, going back to what I was saying, we're going to have some sort of Valve oversight or accountability, or we're going to have this happen a lot.
Well, what happened here, and why I really wanted to bring this up, actually, was not only for that situation, which, again, it sucked at the last minute, and, you think you have a matchup, and then all of a sudden it changes, and, yes, I love Tuho, but I know a lot of people would have really preferred to see Weeha in the stack there, for good reason. But what kind of bothered me was Na'Vi actually participated in this event and literally did the same thing that, they ended up playing in the Dream League Open qualifiers themselves as well. Now, they were slightly different times, but what actually ended up happening was they delayed what was the finals of the PGL tournament, what was going to be between Na'Vi and Empire, by a good couple of hours, I believe, because they were waiting for Na'Vi to finish then playing their Dream League qualifiers. And I believe, I'm pretty sure on this, that also for the Dream League qualifiers, they ended up convincing Dream League to not have the finals played for that, so they could do this. So it ended up causing a controversy and an issue with the scheduling between these two organizations and their tournaments, because ultimately Na'Vi decided to play in both events. But so this goes to, I don't have all the information. I don't know if WeStack was told that they had to choose between one or the other, but it feels very off to me that one team backed out, and maybe that was their own decision, props to them. But then another team, such as Na'Vi, kind of just said, we're going to play both, and the organizations can deal with the scheduling. It sucks.
Yeah, because we had, it was some CIS team, Vega or Empire or something, did that before, and the organization said, if you're late to our tournament, your default loss in game one. And so that kept the schedule, but it let them play in both, but they had a disadvantage. And that's a passable way to handle it. But the fact that Dream League just manipulated the schedule so Na'Vi could play both, it definitely doesn't sit right with me either. That definitely felt pretty bad, given that another team already had repercussions because of that exact same issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, so it is what it is, though, and it's, yes, Valve ideally would need to step in, like you were saying, but if organizations start doing this, then maybe that'll get more teams to be like, well, then we could do that too, and then you start even having more issues as a result. It kind of just compounds one over the other. Now, I will say, the finals that ended up happening between Na'Vi and Empire ended up being a very good finals, for what it's worth, including a game 3 that went 95 minutes. So they were going
an entire
early
series.
In the morning.
Yeah, we casted a whole series, and their best of 3 was still going. They started before us. It was still going quite a ways after us. That was a hell of a series.
Yeah. But Na'Vi won it. And Na'Vi is now going the first 2 minors of the season. And I think both Bucharest, both the PGL event and Starladder are probably pretty damn happy that Na'Vi is going.
Yeah, they're fairly localized events for them, too. Especially the Starladder one. They're going to have a ton of fans there. I believe this Starladder is going to take place in Kiev as well. It's not going to be another Mars TV pairing where they go to China. So definitely going to be a huge tournament to have them at.
Worth pointing out as well for CIS, actually, I mentioned for Starladder, Virtus.pro was not in it. This one, PGL, Virtus.pro was actually in it. And Team Empire had to knock them out 2-0 in the first round of the playoffs to actually move on. So Virtus.pro playing, I believe this was their first play as far as online play goes post-TI, if I'm not mistaken, and they drop in the playoffs in the first round. That's a little surprising to me, because I feel like out of all the regions, that CIS kind of stands out to me, where you have Virtus.pro and then you have the next tier.
Yeah, that is how it always felt, but ever since like TI, it's just kind of felt like Empire might be VP's kryptonite. There's teams in NA like that. Complexity can beat some of the best teams in the world in qualifiers. You've got, in South America, it was always a brawl between SG Esports and Infamous, where Infamous was better against SG most of the time, but not globally. You just kind of have the region beaters, right? And maybe that's Empire in this kind of region. But Navi's shown up huge. I don't think anyone expected this kind of a run with this brand new roster.
Well, so here we are. We got Na'Vi making 2 of the minors now to CIS. Again, I'm sure both those organizations excited. We still have North America as well as Europe to figure out ultimately before this is completely good to go. Remember, this is also the event where the invited teams were Evil Geniuses and LGD. So Newbie and Liquid not participating in this. And you have to believe that probably is because they turned it down. I highly doubt an event this early on in the season would not try to get those teams as the invite teams. Yeah. But they're just happy with EG and LGD. We talked about that in last week's show as well.
Yep, so we beat that topic to death. But all in all, it's definitely going to shape up to be an interesting minor and one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
But our last big topic here, we finally have a qualifier done. Completed, wrapped up, done. Kings Cup, North America. What did you think of the event, Breaky?
It filled a niche initially, and overall it proved to be a fun event. I will say, this is BTS fashion. They like to have fun, of course, with their summit events. I felt like it was a little over-the-top trolly at times. When it came to the production, when it came to them putting on a show, the whole idea with having a different play-by-play cast, like every series, and you got people like, well, let's be honest, Lacoste, who maybe isn't the most comfortable doing play-by-play, having him do play, it felt a little odd, but again, they're having fun with it. I get why they did it that way. It's entertainment in the end, but because you're right, though, this was a serious event at the same time, where it was really the first big qualifier of this whole new season. And in the end, we found out Dire to be the team qualifying out of North America for what is the BTS major.
3-0ing DC. Yeah. That can't be understated. They cleanly took an entire series off Digital Chaos, who was still arguably a top 5 team in North America. Hell of a showing coming out for them, locking in a qualifier slot this early. I've praised this team numerous times already. I think they're going to just be a monster powerhouse in North America. But yeah, all in all, it was an interesting event. I was a bit surprised, actually, that Infamous managed to squeak by VGJ Storm and make the playoff bracket.
Yeah, that was a little shocking to see, because if anything, I know when we were doing our prediction, I even put DC South America in there as if we're going to pick a team out of South America, to be honest, with Infamous losing Tomato. But yeah, you're right. They did sneak by, and it was apparently it had to do, though, according to VGJ Storm, that they didn't get the chance to actually play Iceberg because they dropped out of the event after early on, and that kind of screwed them over in the end. I guess I'm not sure exactly how that's, because now that I'm looking at it, it says they're 8-6 when Infamous. So they gave them the default wins, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that actually did. I thought I remember seeing a tweet from one of those players, but you know what it was? He was making the point that Infamous didn't have to play Iceberg.
That they just got the wins versus them having to play them out.
No, they did play them, though. They actually split the series 1-1. So I don't even know what he's talking about. Anyways, Infamous, yeah, good for them. Yes.
Yeah. And in the end, it was all in VGJ's hands. They got the last series after Infamous 2-0'd DC, where they went right on to play DC, and they ended up getting 2-0'd. If they had just split that series, then all of a sudden you might be in a tiebreaker scenario, get to play a game for the slot. But they had the chance. They just didn't quite get there. But Infamous did drop pretty decisively 2-0 to Dire in the first round.
Yeah.
And, just there can't be too much weight put on this yet, but it's the start of establishing a hierarchy in the region. DC 2-0'd Complexity, Dire 3-0'd DC. That's going to be the question moving forward, is can these teams consistently show they can beat these other teams and start filtering out a tier list for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kings Cup, though, I think overall it was definitely a successful event. Ran by BTS here again, determining, I said major earlier again, it is a minor, but still determining the first team out of North America, at least, to go to the minors. And you are right. I know you made that point where they actually haven't announced like the full format of this event. So for all we know, this could be one of several qualifiers for North America, to be fair. That could be coming down the line. But from what we've been seeing already, so far, it's really just been the one for each of these regions right here. But yeah, happy to see the Dire. I especially after the start that they had, getting 0-2'd by Infamous. I know that they're using a ringer and everything, but it was a shaky start. In the end, though, they came through, and they made it work, of course. So, all right. That covers King's Cup, I think. Yeah, bold predictions, unfortunately, I was actually looking. We didn't get any bold predictions.
No one wants to predict anything this week.
No one. I wish.
Disappointing.
We can revisit.
You got a bold prediction, Breaky?
Well, we can revisit. The team secret will be a top 5 Western team, but Evil Geniuses won't be.
I mean, half of this prediction's looking good. Yeah. Secret is coming out strong. But EG, I mean, we just don't have the data yet. They 2-0'd Blue Pikachu. Great. That's definitely something to revisit, about a month, maybe even a week once these qualifiers all finish out. But definitely something to keep an eye on. Mm-hmm. He got half of it right so far.
Got half of it, yeah. So Secret so far has been a little bit more impressive than maybe I thought that they would have been too. So, props to them.
Well, I guess since we don't have any bold predictions, I'll make one little point as an outro. For those that didn't see, your pub matchmaking experience is shaping up to get a whole lot better. Low prio abusers now getting slammed with a month or more bans. The people that used bots or dummy accounts to get out of low prio have been recently hit by a VAC type ban wave where they are not allowed to queue for ranked matchmaking for the next month.
Good. Screw those guys.
Yeah.
Ruining our games.
So, PSA, if you thought about doing it, don't. It's going to get smashed. You're going to end up being stuck.
I started seeing the new Reddit post being made. It's like several sort of comments like, why am I banned for 3 months? And then they post their Dota buff, and it's just like constant abuse and the low priority. It's like, did you really have to ask that question?
I really like the guy that bought the 4K account and said he was going to go pro. That was probably my favorite one of those threads. He's like, oh, I'm going to go pro, man. I'm going to make it. I know I will. He's like, I get put in low prio unfairly, so I just use the bots to get myself out. And he openly admitted he did it. It's like, dude.
It's the best way to do it, man. Buy accounts. That's the first way to get to pro. Man. Yeah, no, totally. All right. Well, I think we've covered what we wanted to for this week's show here. I know we didn't have a guest on, but understandably, I mean, it's just so busy right now. I do have several people in mind that hopefully we can get on, within the coming weeks here. But those people are pretty busy right now, as far as to say the least, with so much going on with playing and everything. So,
yeah, it's one of those things too. I mean, we don't have that many results yet. There really aren't any people explicitly to go talk to right now. It's more just. You'd have them on, what's going on? Oh, we're playing a lot of games. Good talk. How do you think your team is? Good. Okay. So, as this settles down, I'm sure we're going to have a few people around, but obviously a bit crazy for them, a bit crazy for us.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, it's going to be continuing to be crazy, and again, by next week's show, we'll have even more results, start being able to really start previewing some of these minors coming up, both the Starladder and PGI. I believe by next week's show, we actually should know the full 8 teams for those right there. So that's exciting. There we go. That's exciting to know. We're finally getting stuff, man. It's after TI. Now I will say the one thing we don't have yet is of course the patch, and I guess there was some kind of text somewhere, some rumor where it still might even be like a month away before the patch hits. I don't know exactly where I saw that. I saw something on Reddit about it, but I mean, so who knows if it's true. But man, really? A month? Come on. It has to be before the first minor, right? There's no way they would.
No?
I mean, you're right. It doesn't have to be, but October 11th is the first minor for Starladder. Like, that's
I mean, what they could do is as soon as this batch of qualifiers finishes up, we could see a minor patch, another balance tweak, where maybe you just curb the Venos and the Necros a slight bit. Maybe give Shaker another bump down. Yeah. And not drastically shift up the meta. But this is going to be a huge issue that Valve's going to have to figure out a way to address going forward. We don't have a tournament realm where they play a patch behind or any sort of safe way that they can know the practice they're putting in is going to go towards their tournament. If Valve wants to keep doing these major overhaul patches, some tournament's going to be very, very weird. Mm-hmm. That's about all I can say on that.
Yeah. It's a little bit unfortunate to the players, but at the same time, you play Dota, you have to know that that's just part of how it works. You're going to have to adapt, and that's just part of being a competitive Dota 2 player throughout the year. So again, I'm fine that we have multiple changes throughout the year. You just kind of hope that it happens at least a little more broken up to where they get more prep time. But hey, if it happens right before a tournament starts, then so be it. Make it that much more interesting, I guess, when it comes to watching. So I think we need to wrap up here, though, Zrock. Good.
All right, man.
Show in
it's
the
a good
books.
show. Got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a bunch of results for next week, so looking forward to it.
Get those bold predictions, guys. Do it. Hashtag .probold. Those are fun to talk about. Want to tweet those out to us. Hell, just even message us then. You don't even have to tweet. If you don't have Twitter, if you don't use Twitter, just message us. That works too. Shout out to me, by the way, and you, I guess, but me mainly for carrying you in our first in-house league game for Defense of the Patience there that we played on Wednesday here. Every Wednesday night. You can play, guys. Wrap it up. Have a good night, guys. Myself, BreakyCPK, joined by Zrock. We'll see you guys on the next week's show of the .pro. Have a good night, guys.